Hey, it's EJ from iDesign.com, and in this tutorial I'm going to be showing you how you can control light intensity with just effectors. So you no more having to hand keyframe these things and doing it the hard way. So let's jump in here. We got our light, and just for viewing purposes I'm going to make that visible so when I render you can see what the heck I'm doing. Let's clone some of these guys. Throw the light in the cloner. Go to our cloner. Jump up the count. Spread them out a little bit. Alright, so we got a whole bunch of lights here. Let's actually spread them out a bit more. So we got all of our lights here. So there's actually a couple ways we can get this done. The first method I'm going to show you is a method specific to light objects and adjusting the intensity. The second method I'm going to show you not only adjusts the intensity of a light object, but you can adjust attributes on other objects as well. So say if you have a custom piece of geometry that you have a luminance material applied to, you can use an effector to adjust the intensity of the luminance to have it look like it's fading on or off. And I'll show you that as my third example later on in this tutorial. But first off, I'm going to show you the first method that is just specific towards adjusting light object intensity. So let me show you that. I'm going to go and actually use a plane object or plane effector. I'm going to turn the position off, where I can actually use the color mode, turn it on. And we're actually going to send the blending mode to subtract, because we have our light here with full intensity. We're actually going to go about this and affect it and actually turn and subtract the luminance value from the light as the effector is going through it. So to get this to work, we actually have to turn up modify clone, and we're going to change our fall off to linear, so we have some linear fall off going, so the lights will turn on gradually as the effector fall off passes through it. So we're going to change this to positive Y, and we're going to make sure we got our effector actually affecting. So once I threw that plane effector in there, you can see everything below the fall off is off and everything above is on. So if I render this out, see, only the lights above the fall off are on, and that's because we have this color mode set to subtract. So as the effector passes through, it's subtracting the luminance value and turning and fading everything off. So now if I actually go in, let's actually keyframe this plane effector, move to 90, move this all the way up. So you can see as it's going up that the light object in the scene is kind of fading, going from gray to just black. So if I bring this all the way up, hit another keyframe, and let's actually render this, make a preview, and let this thing go. So we have all of our lights turned on, and as we have the effector pass up, all of those lights intensity are fading down because we have our modify clone and we have our blending mode set to subtract. So now if we set this to add, it would actually brighten the lights. So let me show you that. Let's get to calculating the preview. If we go here, press start, see how it's actually adding to that luminance. So you can kind of see the what's going on behind the scenes. And if you wanted all the lights to actually go from off to on, all you'd have to do is go to your plane effector, go to the fall off, and just invert it. And you can see all of these go black. If I hit render again, you will see that because you inverted it, all the lights will be off, and as the effector passes through, it'll turn all the lights on. So simple as just hitting invert on the fall off. And now I'm going to show you the second method to get this done. We're going to actually need to go between two states or even more than that, 2 states of the object. So we already have our light object at full intensity. I'm just going to hold down Control and duplicate this light and make one with 0 intensity. So right now it's just cloning and just iterating, one light on, one light off. And you can see in the clone, under the cloner, it's set to iterate. If we go to sort, if I render right away, nothing happens. But once I throw an effector on this guy, so I'm going to choose the plane effector, I'm going to turn the position off, I'm going to change the fall off to linear, I'm going to orientate that to the positive Y, and if I render right away, nothing happens. But once I turn up this modify clone and hit render, you can see everything above the fall off is on, and everything below the fall off is off. And why that is because we have this sort option, and what this is doing is it's sorting between the light with the intensity at 100% and the one with the intensity at 0. So as our plane effector is going through, you can kind of see the kind of boundary area, or the little light fall off area. So the fall off is controlling where the objects are being, the cloned objects are being sorted. So right now we have, if I go and animate this, animate the plane object, go to our coordinate, put a keyframe at the Y, and move this guy up, zoom out a little, move this guy all the way up so the fall off clears the top, and hit another keyframe. If I do a quick preview render here, and this pops up, and if I hit play here, actually if I select the right preview file and do a little bit of previewing here, so you can see that the plane effector is going up and turning all of the lights off, or it's changing the clone from the light clone with the 100% intensity to the clone with 0 intensity. So it looks like it's shutting off. Now that might be the look that you need, but what if you want to have these gradually decreasing in intensity? Right now it's very sudden, 0 to 100, or 100 to 0, sorry. So what if you want to have it more gradual? So the way the sort option works is it's going to cycle through all of the clones in the hierarchy. So right now it's cycling through 100 to 0. So now if I go in and if I go, let's make this a 75, so we're going from 100 to 75. Let's go to 50, duplicate this again, go to 25. Now right away, if I go and have that so it's in the center, hit render, nothing's happening right now. Oh, I have to actually adjust the minimum maximum to -100 so it can pick up some of those lower values. So now, if I just adjust the fall off a little bit here, if I do another RAM preview, let's let this go. Play on this. So you can now see it's cycling through first it's going through the 100, it's going from the 75 to 50 to 25 to 0, and each of these clones are doing that. So as I hit play, you give the illusion that it's actually the light is just slowly fading off, the intensity's fading away. So that's looking nice. But what if you want the opposite effect? It's just going by the hierarchy here. So if I want it to start at 0 intensity, I just kind of flip these guys around. So now I have the 100% at the bottom, 75, 50, 25, and 100. And so everything's going to be reversed at that point. So, and what I had to do was the minimum maximum because it was set at 0, it was only going through half of the clones here. If you have it go from negative to 100 to 100, it's going to cycle through all of these. So be cognizant of your minimum maximum settings, and also make sure that you have the modified clone on, because if you don't have the modified clone on, it's not going to do anything. So just something to bear in mind. So that's how you can get either a nice abrupt on off on your intensity, or a gradual fade off by adding these middle steps between the 0 and 100 intensity. And you can add as many of these as you want. If you want a little bit more gradual, you just make a 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, you keep going on. Just use your math skills, right? So that's how you can control your lights. So why I actually came up with this was because I needed to create a noise meter for a hockey team, and I made this little sound meter. If I render this out, so I have all these cylinders with a luminance texture on it. If I zoom in, let's go right here. If I zoom in here, if I can hit the right button, there we go. So if I zoom in and render, it's just all these cylinders with this light texture on, and I want to go to the same effect. I want it's supposed to be measuring the sound, so the meter's going to go up, right, and the lights are going to turn on. It's kind of like the what's the little carnival game where you hit the hammer and the light goes up, and you want to try to get the bell all the way to the top, and the lights go on until you get to the top. I forget what that thing's called, but you know what I'm talking about. So that's basically like the sound meter is, as the sound supposedly gets louder, it's gonna turn on these little lights up until it gets to the top. So it's kind of measuring the noise, but it's really not. But so let me show you how I did this. So it's the same premise as before. I have a cylinder with a texture that has luminance at 170. I have one at 100, and then one with a darker luminance. So it's basically turned off. So I just have to go in here, make sure that it's set to sort, and I just need to use another linear or plane effector and make sure that is applied to our cloner, and it is. And going to turn off the position, going to turn on the modified clone, going to set our fall off to linear and set it to Y. So already you can see, if I render this out, it's going the opposite direction, but you have the 170% luminance of this texture, and then the one with just 100, and then the one where it's the darker luminance, so it looks like it's turned off. So I'm actually facing the wrong way, so if I go to negative, and if I'm moving this up and down, you can kind of see what I'm talking about. So the sound meter, so as the sound builds, this meter is going to slowly go up until it just, all the bars have turned to full luminance. So that's the kind of gradual look I'm looking for. If I wanted to, I can duplicate another middle one and make another texture that has, say, 50% or 60% luminance, and throw that texture on there so it's even more of a kind of gradual. It's very subtle, but if I make this, let's make this a little bit darker. So you see a little bit more how you have that gradual luminance fade as the effector, the plane effector, goes through here. So as I did in my other tutorial, I used Cappuccino to kind of record my mouse movements, and it's come in handy since I discovered that what the heck Cappuccino actually does, even though it's not for character animation solely. But So what I did is I had to kind of make this camera, and as the energy is building, the camera's going to shake a little bit more as the noise supposedly gets louder in this arena that this animation is going to be playing. So I kind of had to gradually have this camera shake, build up with energy, shake even more as the noise got louder. So instead of just hand keyframing everything, I just went in here and got where is it? Got my cappuccino open. If you don't know what cappuccino does, check out the tutorial I made called Intro to Cappuccino. Basically, it just records all your mouse movement once you start hitting record. It's like motion sketch inside of After Effects. So I want to kind of control the position of this plane effector, right? So I'm gonna make sure it's down at the bottom, and I'm gonna kind of make it look like it's measuring the sound. Alright, so I'm going to go in here, make sure I got 30 frames per second. That's the project frame rate. Going to make sure, so whenever it records in real time. Gonna make sure I have my plane effector selected, move it down, and then hit start real time. And as I touch it, it's going to start playing the vibrate tag animation. So now I can start to control this as it gets kind of real shaky, so I can really adjust and go along with the shakiness of the action here. So I just stopped a little bit early there. So if I go back and hit play again, with Cappuccino, it made me able to just interact directly with the vibrate tag, so I can match the franticness of the vibrate tag, and has the vibrate tag kind of builds with the shaking, build how high up the these little luminance bars go up. So kind of looks like it's reacting to the shaking of the intensity of the vibrate tag there. So it kind of matches with that, and would be pretty hard to try to hand keyframe that to make it look believable and get this kind of sound meter look where it's measuring the noise decibels, if you follow me. So there's a couple uses of how you can create luminance textures to fade on with effectors, or as I started out with, how you can control light luminance as well with your light objects. So hopefully you can start using that in your day-to-day workflow and never have to hand keyframe a luminance material or a light's intensity ever again, so because you just know how to do it with a simple plane effector with the modify and clone option enabled. So thanks for watching.